Hello guys, this is Karim backwards again, and in this video I'd like to show you some useful tips, especially when you are switching from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So let's get into it. Let's go to the first one. The first one is about the start button position. You probably used to have it on the left side, especially when you are coming from the Windows 10 or earlier, but you can change its position. So how to do it? We have several ways how to do it. I will show you the easiest one. So at first click on the taskbar with right mouse button and choose taskbar settings. Here scroll down to taskbar behaviors, click to expand, and here you can find the taskbar alignment, so you can switch it to the left or keep it on the center. By the way, this is funny thing because usually the change is made immediately, but as you can see here it's not reacting, so you have to do a small workaround. Click on here and change it to anything else you already have here, like for example this, and then switch it back where it has been before. So this will force refresh this whole taskbar behavior. So for example, if you are going to switch it on the left and nothing happens, just like right now, just switch something different here to all taskbars, for example, and then put it back. And as you can see from now, the start button finally is on the left side. This is a known bug in Windows 11, so if, for example, if you will want to switch it back again, nothing happens, and again you have to trigger it manually by forcing this drop down to a different value than it was before and then switch it back. And as you can see, finally it has moved to the center. The alternative way how to get into this menu is to click on start button, type in here the settings, click on the settings, here on the left choose the personalization, and here move down to the taskbar, and we are back again, and here you can click the taskbar behaviors again to expand. So this is the alternative way how to get into this menu if you will have any issues. Okay, now let's move to the tip number 2. I found it very useful, especially when you are using several applications at once. To be honest, I would expect it to be a little bit better, but it's still better than nothing. So let's get into it, and this is gonna be about the virtual desktops. So let's say that you are using a lot of apps or many apps, and you have a pretty big mess as I do now, and you want to separate one group of apps from the other group of apps, for example. This is very useful, for example, when you have something like two worlds in your computer. One is for the personal life and one is for the work life, so you can use a virtual desktop to clean this mess up. So now I will show you what it can do and even what it cannot do. So we are starting our journey on this task view icon. If you are not seeing it here, go back to the place where we already have been before today. It's the settings of the taskbar, and here switch the task view to on. You probably have it off, so that's the reason why you don't see the task view icon just right here. Now when you click on this icon, you will see all the apps you already have opened, and here down below you can see how many desktops you already have. I already created a desktop number 2, but if you don't, you can create a new one for you. So you probably, if you are here for the first time, will see something like this. You can create your own desktop. Now let's get back to the desktop one, and as you can see, when I hover over the desktop, it will show me the apps which are open on each desktop. When I hover over the desktop 2 icon, nothing is here because we have just created this desktop number 2 and we didn't run any application on this desktop. And now we can move some of these apps to the second desktop. So let's say I want to move my Microsoft Office applications to the different desktop to make my desktop one cleaner. So it's very easy, just drag it and move it to the icon of the required desktop and release it. As you can see now, the Word application is not in here, even we are hovering over the desktop 1, and if you will hover over the desktop 2, you can see now that here is the Word application instead. If you will click on the desktop 2, it will move you to the desktop 2, and here, as you can see, is the only one app running, which is the Microsoft Word. So if you will want to go back, just click it again and move to the desktop 1, where is all the rest of these apps we had here before. And again, in the same way, you can just drag and drop any other apps and move it to the desktop 2 or any other desktops you are going to create here, because you can have here infinite amount of desktop, and really sit on the desired favorite desktop. So now as you can see, we have moved 2 of our apps from desktop 1 to desktop 2. And if we will click on the desktop 2, you will just switch to the desktop 2, obviously. Now I'll give you some additional tips which can be useful for you if you are deciding to start using these virtual desktops. So the first thing is, if something is running, if any app is running on the desktop 1, it still keeps running even when you are on the desktop 2. For example, me. Now I am recording all of this session on the OBS, which has been started on the desktop 1, and even I will switch to desktop 2, the recording will go on. The second tip, if you are going to use it often, you can just change the background of each of your desktops. So for example, now when I'm on the desktop 2, I can change my background on desktop 2 independently on the desktop 1 background. So let's, for example, switch it to this one, and you will see that it will be changed absolutely independently with the desktop number 1. This is very useful when you got lost and you need to know for a first sight on which desktop you are. You can specify a background wallpaper for each desktop. What you unfortunately cannot specify is which icons you see on your desktop. For example, now I have here a bunch of some icons, and unfortunately, if you are going or switching to desktop 2, you will have here the same icons, and if I will remove one of them from here, it will be removed even from the desktop 1. So unfortunately, this is not divided, and this is the thing I would really appreciate if this would be divided independently between all these desktops. But never mind, still it's better than nothing, and we are going on to tip number 3. But before we move on, if these tips helps you, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video, because it will tell YouTube to show this video to more people, and I will be grateful for it. So let's move on. This one is gonna be for the laptop users only, and it will help you to find out which app is draining your battery on your laptop. So again, click on the start button and again go to the settings. By the way, as you can see, my theme has switched to light instead of dark, just because I switched the background on the desktop too, which is one of known bugs. I would really appreciate if Microsoft will fix all these errors, because this is very useful tool to have multiple desktops. Anyway, let's move on. Here on the left side, click on the system and move down to power and battery and click on it. And here below you can see a battery usage. By the way, if you do not see it, you are probably on a desktop computer, obviously. And this is very useful, by the way, because you can see here the history of your battery charging situation. For example, me, I now can see here the state of battery charging for last 24 hours, but you can switch it to last 7 days. And now the graph will divide into 7 parts, which unfortunately are not described at all. So you have to count down from 1 to 7, which means this is today. The second one from the right is yesterday, and so on. So now you can see all these last 7 days, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for example, today is Monday, so this is Sunday, this is Saturday, this is Friday, this is Thursday. So as you can see, during the Thursday I have used a battery a lot, and then even during the Sunday or Saturday. And if you have switched to this 7 days view, you have to click on one of these days by selecting its part of this graph. And as you can see down here, it will load up from the history which apps had the highest consumption of batteries. So let's take a look on the Thursday and scroll down, and here you can see that most of the battery has been used for the Microsoft Edge during Thursday. Even though the screen has been turned on for 6 hours and 51 minutes, but beware, it's for a whole day. It doesn't mean that it has been on the battery running for 6 hours, okay? The second one who is discharging our battery at most is the Google Chrome with 22%. The third one is the Microsoft Teams, and so on. In some cases, you can turn off running on background of these apps, like using this 3 dots and then turning it off just right here. But I really do not recommend it, because, for example, in the case of these Microsoft Teams, you will probably lose any notifications, or they might be delayed. So use it very carefully. And by the way, you can choose how it should be sorted here. The default sorting is by overall usage per each app, but you can sort sort it by its name, or maybe, which is much more useful, by time in running background. So for example, now I can see that in the background the Microsoft Teams has run at most, because here, as you can see, the background tasks of Microsoft Teams took up to 10% of the battery, which means 42 minutes. And the second place is for Google Chrome, and the third one is the Microsoft Edge. So now we are sorting by this background consumption of the battery. By the way, a small tip, or maybe a teaser, if you will hover over the battery status here down in the tray icon, I will show you a trick in another video how to see immediately, even when hovering this battery icon, how much time does your computer left regarding to the battery status. But you will see it in another video, so don't forget to subscribe this channel. And we are moving on to the tip number 4, which is shaking the windows. What I mean is, if you have a lot of applications running at once on your desktop and you are still not dividing them by switching from desktop 1 to desktop 2 or something like that. So sometimes you can feel confused and interrupted by other applications or windows you can see here in the background. So there is a small trick which will help you to keep the focus for the one and only selected app. So for example, let's say that I want to watch this app, which is Microsoft Edge with the YouTube tab opened, and let's say that I don't want to see all these apps here. So the option 1 is that I'm going one by one and minimize them, but this is very slow and very non-practical. So we have another option how to solve it. Just drag it here on the top panel of the app and just shake it from side by side, and as you can see, all these apps has been minimized into the tray. So it has not been closed, you still can use it later, but it just has been minimized. And it's the same thing like when you will go each one by one and minimize them. Unfortunately, again, there is no undo, so you cannot just shake it again, for example, to put them back as they were before, but never mind, it's still useful. For me, I would like to give you a special tip, which is a keyboard shortcut, the Windows key plus D, like desktop, because anytime you will press this Windows plus D combination, it will minimize all the apps you can see. So this is the fastest way how to minimize all the apps to get on the desktop icons you have here. So this was a 4th tip, and I hope that you will find it useful and that it will help you to boost your productivity at least for, let's say, 3.65%. Let me know in the comments. And again, I would really appreciate if you will give me a subscribe and like if you like this video and if it helped you in any way. And you can just look forward for another video of mine. So see you until the next time. Goodbye.
Welcome to Karam Backwards channel.